What's happening? Welcome to season 2 of Mad That. I'm Carl Riegler.
And I'm Harry Robinson. If you like what we do here, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, comment, tell your nan.
Tell your nan's mates, tell your nan's mates. Tell the world that Mad That are trying to change the world.
Go to the retirement home and scream about Mad That.
Yeah, we need you to help us. We saw the love you gave us on series 1. Literally, it blew us away. The likes, the comments, the shares. People coming up and saying they love it. It means the world to us. So that's gone. Do you know what? We're going to make season 2 even better. So if we do that again, we'll make season 3 even better than that. And we'll keep growing until this podcast reaches the moon. Because we love making it so much. We just need to know that you love watching it. And we promise we'll make it bigger and better.
Yeah. So let us know who you want in the comments. You know, let us know like where you want us to take, what kind of topics you want us to cover.
Yeah.
Let's jump into the episode. We're going to start with the intro, which was filmed at the end of the episode. So you've got our raw kind of reaction. That's how we do it here.
Yeah.
And enjoy.
Let's go.
Reporting live from the front line. This is the Mad Dat.
I'm Joe Exotic, and welcome to the Mad Dat Podcast.
Hello and welcome to Mad That.
I mean, that was a heavy episode, so I'm a bit heavy. I'm also a bit unwell, but my eyes are heavy.
Yeah, welcome to Mad That with Katy Morgan-Davies. One of the, possibly the heaviest episode we've ever done.
I mean, it absolutely is the heaviest episode we've ever done.
And we were just talking about it in the kind of roundup, like the kind of emotional weight. You almost feel bad for having it because of the story that you're going to hear in this episode. So Katy Morgan-Davies is a woman who was born into let me get the name up, the Workers' Institute of Marxism, Leninism, and Mao Zedong Thought, which is a communist cult that kind of changed from kind of the politics more to this kind of controlling ideology.
Yeah.
It
was one of them cults where the man's like, I like women.
Yeah, by a man called Aravindan Balakrishnan, who's also known as AB or Comrade Bala, or I think he's kind of exclusively referred to as AB during this. And he is Katy's biological dad. She didn't know that for many, many years. She was told that she was told
it wasn't important who her parents were, as a distraction from the idea.
She was just told that she just existed.
Yeah, you are there, we are people, we live.
But I mean, ironically, Katy on paper didn't exist. She didn't.
She wasn't registered. Nobody knew she existed. At one point, she's talking about how this man threatened to kill her and nobody would notice. And that is true. Nobody would notice. Nobody knew she was real.
And she's had, and she was stuck inside, although they kind of moved around houses a little bit. She never properly left, ever. And she was trapped inside through fear and through controlling tactics until the age of 30.
30 years. And she wasn't allowed to look out of the window.
She got out in 2013, so she's only been out 12 years.
Yeah.
Not even 12 years tomorrow, as it transpires.
Yeah.
Which is, we didn't plan that. But yeah, what you'll find out about Katy is that she's had one of the worst first 30 years of life that anyone can have, and she's the brightest.
Oh my God! Wow.
It's weirdly touching and heart-wrenching at the same time, and inspiring because she's just the loveliest person, and
we made sure she knew that as well.
Absolutely. This episode breathes quite a bit, and it's a nice. It's a bleak listen.
This is a somber listen, and it's got some funny bits in it, and she likes to laugh, and we're still us. But compared to what we've done previously and what's coming up, this is more of a, this is a somber story.
It's important listening though as well.
Yeah, it's also everywhere. There's fucking vital to this. Like it's such a good episode. I'm so proud we made it.
Yeah, it feels. You feel almost honoured that we get to sit here and we're normally dickheads and we get to hear that experience. I genuinely feel like I could cry. Yeah, it's
mad.
It's deep, but trigger warnings. The story includes kind of controlling abusive behaviour. Doesn't really get touched on, but because it's not relevant to Katy, but AB was also charged in the end with the rape and sexual assault of two of the cult members. He's an all-round awful human being.
Fucking awful human being.
And Yeah, this is a deep one, but it's an important one. And when it's all said and done with Mad, that I think this is going to be one of the kind of crown jewels of we can deal with.
Proud that we were, because this is not like and this is not me blowing our own fucking trumpets or smoke up our own asses. This isn't one where you can just press start and go. I feel like we had to handle this with kid gloves, and I think we really did.
Because otherwise it would have been a disservice to Katy and what she's been through and the time that she's given us.
Yeah. So, I'm not saying we're amazing, but I think I'm quite proud of both of us.
I am as well. Yeah. So this is Katy Morgan-Davies from Mad That. Really hope you enjoy.
No high five, but enjoy the episode.
Yeah, and take it all in. It's an important one.
Yeah.
Are you all good to go?
Yeah. Yep.
Perfect. So it's great to see you again, Katy. The way we kind of start off a lot of these interviews, you've got a story, I guess, which is why we brought you on. But the question that we always start off with is, in your words, who is Katy Morgan-Davies?
Quite a profound question.
I'm a fool.
So if somebody's not met Katy Morgan-Davies before, aside from your story, irrelevant, how would you describe yourself? Who are you? Like, how would you put yourself into words?
I'm quirky.
Quirky, okay.
Quirky. Clumsy.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I like to ask questions.
Okay, inquisitive. That's literally us.
If you have any questions for us as well, you can float them our way.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, more in the sense that I don't just accept things. I kind of question things that people sometimes get mad about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
They say this is how it is, and I sometimes say, but that doesn't quite make sense. Why?
It's a good way to find out how the world works.
I mean, I guess a lot of that can probably, if I'm right to say, probably a lot of that stems from, I guess, the world that you were brought up in. For someone who doesn't know your story, could you take us right back to the start and maybe explain, I guess, some of your earliest memories and the give context maybe as the situation that you were in for people who don't know?
I was born into a very weird, mad cult, and they said they were Maoist, but I don't know. They seemed to be a conglomeration of all the worst things it was possible to be. So I grew up in that situation. I wasn't allowed to go to school. I wasn't allowed to see a doctor. Not allowed to mix with other children. Not allowed to have my own ideas about things. I was told what I was meant to think, and I would be severely punished if I thought or said something that didn't fit in with the ethos of the cult.
Yeah. I mean, for those of you, for people listening who might not know, it was a rough. It's the understatement of the year saying it was a rough kind of upbringing and setting to be in. So I mean, to give context, the group, the Maoist group that you were talking about, was led by a man called AB or Aravindan Balakrishnan,
Right, yeah.
who is your biological father.
Yeah.
But that's something that you didn't know growing up.
No, not really. I was not allowed to. They didn't like this idea of people having attachments to parents or to different things. So it was like, it's best if you don't know who your parents are, where you're from. Sometimes I didn't even know if I was a boy or a girl at one time. It was like, they wanted you to be like a blank slate so that they could write on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were also no other external influences allowed when I was growing up.
Am I right in saying that it was a house in Brixton that you were living in at the time?
Yes, we kind of moved around the Brixton area. it was generally around South London. Sometimes it was around Mitcham, Streatham, Brixton, all around there. And at one point, we went to live in Wembley for a few years, but it was always in London.
Yeah. And whilst this is happening, I mean, technically, you don't exist on paper.
That's right.
Yeah. How did that feel at the time, kind of knowing that?
Well, I was told that it was to protect me because they had this idea that the state in Britain is fascist and they were trying to protect me from that. But as time went on, I began to feel very vulnerable because it made me wonder, because times like at times when my dad was angry, he would say, I would kill you and no one would even know. So, and it wasn't a joke, it was, he meant it. And it was that kind of thing made it scary. And also, I didn't like it when everybody else would have opportunity to connect with other people, and I didn't have that because I'm inquisitive and I like to talk to people, especially if they're cute and look nice. I like to pet animals and get involved in things. And it was like, no, you stay out of the way. We don't want you.
Do you remember the first, do you remember the age you were when you first realised that you perhaps weren't living the way most other people were? Do you remember the first memory of going, this isn't...
Well, I think it was gradual, really. But the thing that I noticed was that I was always being told that we are growing up. This setup is the new world, and it's so much better than the old world, which is basically everybody and everything outside the four walls of the house. And that was being drummed into me by everybody, not just my dad, but everybody else around. And but I started to notice by looking out of the window, which obviously I wasn't meant to do, that everybody else seemed happier than the people in the house. I mean, there was always a bad mood, a terrible tension between everyone in the house, and people were always shouting and snitching on one another, and the atmosphere was very, what shall we say? It was always fraught with tension. Like, you never know when something would trigger an explosion of anger, and you would get beaten up, or someone else would get beaten up, black and blue. And there was always shouting and, that kind of thing. And there was no laughing or hugging or even smiling for most of the time. Whereas outside, it looked like everybody else seemed to be in a better place. We would hear people laughing, we would hear kids playing outside with toys and balloons, and
Yeah.
it just seemed a lot more pleasant. And on the rare occasions when I went out, sometimes it was the only time I would get the chance to smile at another person and be smiled at in return. Because in the house, it was like people were suspicious if there was any sign of happiness. If you smiled at somebody, it was like, what's that? Why are you smiling? You need to have a straight, serious face all the time.
How do you think that's played into your adult life? Obviously now, like when we were chatting beforehand, you're a very smiley and kind of affable person. Do you think you've gone that way because of how you weren't allowed to smile, I guess, growing up?
Perhaps, I don't know. I never I never felt that I fitted in that place, because I felt like I was one kind of person and all the others were a different kind of person. So most of them were very neurotic. They were very short tempers, very negative and drab. They always liked dark colors and plain colors, and very austere. very intolerant and very hard line about things, and never willing to sort of like, I never felt that there was any empathy in that place, never willing to consider something from someone else's perspective. And then each individual person in that place was quite like an island on their own. So they would always quarrel with each other as well, because everybody thought they were correct and there was no give and take. And I just found it so suffocating. So I've always naturally been smiley and giggly and, just I think it's important to be nice to one another and listen to one another and be kind. So yeah, I try to be like that. I mean, sometimes things irritate me, but I try to, if I'm in a bad mood, I take myself off, because I don't think anybody else deserves to be on the receiving end of my bad mood. So I just take myself off until I've calmed down.
You have an emotional maturity way beyond a lot of people that I know.
Beyond most life.
Way beyond myself.
Yeah. Did you? So when you said that the space you were in was really negative and drab and bad, what was your way of dealing with that? Did you take yourself out of the house in any other way? Did you I don't know, did you read,
No.
or was there any way of escaping that reality?
Well, I kind of used to daydream and sort of create an alternative reality in my head that it was not like that. And that sort of, in some ways, became more real to me than what was going on, because it was like my way of keeping my sanity. So to this day, I still find myself doing that. And well, I've recently been diagnosed with ADHD. So I don't know if I had ADHD or whether it was because of my environment or what. I don't know. We don't know that, do we? But I'm very much a daydreamer, and I can go off daydreaming for hours sometimes, much to the irritation of people who are trying to tell me something needs to be done. It's like, okay. And then I'm off.
You're elsewhere.
I'm elsewhere. I'm there, but I'm not there.
There's always solace in daydreaming, though. I think everyone daydreams a little bit. Yeah.
To give kind of context, because you talked about I guess the atmosphere and the people not, people being suspicious of happiness and the tension where you were living. So it was AB at the kind of head of the group, I guess, and everyone else was female. How many people were kind of living in the same house?
Right. When I was my earliest memories, I think it was 9, 10 people. So there was my stepmother, my dad's wife, and then there was my mum. Obviously, I didn't know all these things, that they were who they were, but they were just members of the cult. And there was my stepmother's sister and a few others, about 5 or 6 others. But then the number slowly dwindled over the years, because when I was around 6, one of the members left and didn't return. And when I was around 9, another one left and didn't return. And then when I was 14, the woman who I later realized was my mum threw herself out of the second floor window, and then she subsequently died. And then when I was 21, another woman died because she didn't get help in time. So she was feeling unwell, and instead of getting her medical help, the cult told her that she needs to focus on AB, which means focus on my father and his crazy ideas, in order to become healthy again. And she died of a stroke.
Wow.
It was absolutely terrible. Yeah.
You mentioned about your mother, Sean.
Mm.
Could you, I guess, talk us through? Obviously, you didn't know she was your mother, but she obviously did. Could you talk us through your relationship and, I guess, the emotions that subsequently followed after her suicide attempt?
I hated her because she was horrible. She was always like, I don't know. I've thought about this for many years, and sort of, I think she was trying to deny her own feelings, her own, like, normally a mother would have some level of attachment to their child, but that was forbidden. So she was trying to prove that she had, what do you call it, overcome all these silly old world ideas and was fully dedicated to the cause of the cult and to my dad as a person. So the way she showed that was by constantly reporting me for doing things, for misdemeanors or transgressions, and getting me into trouble all the time, and always trying to deny my right to do anything that made me happy. So she was so neurotic and horrible, and she was never kind either. Some of the other cult members could be kind on their own, but I mean, obviously nobody was kind if they got into that group mentality. Then they would all stop being kind, but on their own, every now and then, yeah, they were all right, some of them. But my mum she was awful. So after her suicide attempt, when she went to the hospital, I felt that my life had improved 100-fold because she was no longer around to cause trouble, to stop me from doing anything that gave me joy, to report me and get me beaten up, and to enforce this horrible totalitarian tyranny in the house. So I was actually really relieved that she was out of the way, which sounds terrible, but it was because she was so oppressive.
It's understandable, yeah.
It was like the downfall of a tyrant almost, so it was really, it felt better. And then, but my greatest fear was that she would return, that she'd get better and come back, and then my life would be horrible again. So when I heard that she had passed away, I was actually, thank God, no more of that now, because I didn't know she was my mum, and to me, she was just a tyrant and a bully.
When did you find out that she was your mum?
Much later on. I mean, there were hints of it, but nobody would confirm it. And then I think when I was 21, one of the other cult members confirmed that, yeah, that Sean was pregnant and that I was her baby. So it was, and then when I found out more about her subsequently after leaving the cult, and people who said that she was a very nice person before she joined the collective, she was somebody completely different. It was like I only saw the bad side of her, and I felt so upset about that, and also very guilty that I had kind of wanted her gone. I mean, I was sad that she died, but at the same time, it was a practical issue that she was no longer there to tyrannize the place. She was no longer there causing misery. And then when I found out all the things, it was like, goodness. So I used to dream about her a lot and keep dreaming that, as if it was real, that I was meeting her and we were meeting as mother and daughter without all that ideological nonsense.
When you say she would report you to AB for, misdemeanors around the house, can you give us some examples of what you could do? What were these things that you were doing wrong that would get you in trouble?
I mean, you just something like looking out of the window was a big no-no, because they didn't want me to have outside influences. Or if I would see something nice outside and say, "Oh, I like that," that would be reported, and then people would guard the window for days so I couldn't look out and see it. That was kind of an example, but it was like what I would talk about. I used to have things that I was interested in that were not acceptable to the cult. I used to have crushes on people, for example, and I used to get into a lot of trouble for talking about the people I had a crush on, or trying to find out more about them, or whatever.
Were these like people, like neighbors that you could see, or were these like people on the television?
Usually it was anybody who my dad didn't like, really, because my dad hated people, and he would have like, what shall we say? What's the right word for it? He'd have like a pathological hatred of a certain individual for a certain period of time, and he would get excited about the idea of harming and hurting that person. And that, I don't know why, but when I felt that was so alien to me, and I would feel like, oh, I want to protect that person, whoever they are. Why are you being so horrible to them? And I used to feel so much empathy for that person. And I would imagine myself taking them and holding them and cuddling them, saying sorry and that kind of thing. And to this day, I'm still like that. When the public don't like somebody, I feel like I need to go to that person, hold them, and keep them safe. Because it's like everybody's being cruel to you, but nobody's noticing you. There's you there. Okay, you may have done wrong things, but there's still you there behind all of it. Beautiful you there. And I see that. I see you. I don't see what everybody else is saying you've done. I see you there, and I want to hold you and keep you safe.
For you to, I know Harry said earlier, for you to have gone through what you've gone through and still have the infectiously positive attitude that you have is admirable. Like,
thank you.
It's infectious. When you say you had crushes, and you say, I mean, obviously it was they were fleeting and whatever. Was there any ever actual encounters with crushes, or was it just from afar?
Well, when I was about 12, I had a crush on a neighbor, but obviously I couldn't talk to anybody because everything was guarded. I wasn't allowed to go out or chat to anybody. It was literally, there were about 8 people around the house, and there was only the front and the back door, or in some places there was only one door. So there's no way I could do anything. But sometimes I would stand at the window and hope that I could get in a little wave or say hello. It never really happened. Not when I was younger, but later on, obviously, things did happen. But that's another story.
Are you willing to share that other story, or
I can do. When I was 25, I had an affair with a neighbor. So I managed to sneak him in through the window, and we had a bit of fun. It was so cute. Oh, it was so cute.
How naughty did that feel? Because that is
very naughty.
That is naughty anyway, to sneak people in, but in your world that is to the moon naughty, isn't it? That must have added to the edge of the
encounter.
Yeah. Sure, that must have been. That must have been fun.
It was great fun. He was the first young person I had been around. I was 25, he was 21. And everybody in my life was in their 50s and 60s, like old fuddy-duddies, and with no idea of, even the concept of fun was alien to them. And not just alien, it was something to be actively repressed and banished. Fun, just fun. And I was the opposite. I just love fun. I just always want fun. So it was the first time just hugging a young person, chatting to somebody who didn't talk nonsense, who didn't talk everything through this horrible ideological lens, who just a human encounter from one human being to another. That was the most important part. It wasn't necessarily the intimacy about it, which was great, except that was the best bit of it. And obviously they found out, and then they locked all the doors and windows. So, and it was those kind of windows which had a key in it. So they took the key out. So I couldn't open the window, even when it was like 35 degrees hot outside. It was at times it was 50 degrees in the room because it was so hot. And I was just wilting away in there. So I got severely punished for the next 5 years.
Wow, 5 years.
Yeah, until I escaped.
Was it worth it?
Yes, it was worth it because the memories were good, and I had that. That was like a. It was
Something
like
to hold on to.
Yeah, it was like a. What's it, almost like a talisman, something that I knew there was a good, happy memory that wasn't tainted by all this nonsense, and I used to write poetry about it, and it sort of it kept me going. That was good, even though it was naughty.
What was his interactions with you? Because obviously, if he's living in the outside world, your world is totally alien to him. How did you explain what your circumstance was?
I didn't. I just told him that because my dad was Asian, so I said Asian parents are very, very strict. They're like all these ideas they have about honor and the reputation of the family. So they arrange marriages for their children. So I kind of said, oh, they mustn't know that I'm having a relationship with somebody who they don't approve of. So we have to be absolutely secret and quiet. We have to sneak around. We have to whisper. We mustn't make any sound.
Have you ever made contact with this person? Would you ever like to make contact with them?
I think I did. Yes, I did once, but it was so long afterwards that I think they'd kind of forgotten about it.
I don't believe that.
I don't think it meant that much. I don't know.
I don't think it's possible to have meant that much to them. Obviously, yours was heightened, but I don't believe he's forgotten.
Yeah.
No, probably not. But I think he had a normal life, so I was just one tiny part of that normal life. Whereas for me, it was everything. It was like the rising of the sun, everything, because my life was so dark and horrible.
Yeah. I mean, we've not really explained properly. Could you kind of give context as to why you or other members kind of couldn't really leave the house and the kind of ideology with Jackie and that kind of stuff that AB was spouting that stopped, that kind of had you in, I guess, like invisible shackles a little bit?
Yeah.
To staying in the house.
Yeah, well, the main thing was the other members were allowed to go out, but they always had to go in pairs because it was meant to be too unsafe for them to walk on their own. So my dad would like show them news items there. Oh, this woman who walked on her own and then got kidnapped. And you see, that's what happens out there. So you mustn't ever be on your own. We have to keep you safe. That kind of thing. And I was obviously, I don't know, I was just told that it was to keep me safe, but I wasn't told specifically why I was not allowed any interaction with the outside world, except that I was meant to be like kept away from all polluting influences. And then as time went on, it was almost like they thought I was retarded or that I didn't have the capability to understand things. So sometimes because even now I do wonder whether I was a bit funny because I find things very difficult. Practical stuff I find very difficult, which others find easy. I find it very complicated sometimes, and sometimes I do
Feels
wonder.
understandable though. That feels totally understandable.
Yeah.
I feel like your environment makes the person you are. So you have you as a child, you don't have these things that are teaching you how to
Yeah.
do things that you think are simple.
Yeah, that's right. I'm all over the place, and so sometimes I wonder whether they thought I needed protecting because I wouldn't do well in the world outside where everything is so fast paced and everybody has to be clued up all the time. But I don't know. I have considered that, but at the same time, I also think they could not quite explain why I had been kept in this way if I had escaped earlier. Like if they had let me go when I was, say, 18 or 19 or something, there would be questions asked as to why I hadn't gone to school, why I didn't have identification and all these things. So I think
How long was it you were? So for our listeners, how long was it you were inside for?
30 years.
30 years.
Yes.
It's
I mean, you say the way you kind of talk about yourself, Katie. Sometimes you say stuff like, they might be right or whatever. Like you're such an eloquent. Do you know what I mean? Like we certainly don't think that.
No.
I know you are so put together and emotionally intelligent. When if you
100%.
weren't, it would be understandable. I know people so less emotionally intelligent than you who have no excuse to be when you have the biggest excuse to be. You know? So blaming yourself is.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we can't speak for you, but it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but I think what I have noticed is that I have got heightened abilities in some levels and in some things and complete inabilities in other things. So it feels like there's a mismatch going on. So if you could talk about being intelligent and sensible and all this, I think I'm quite good at that. But then when it comes to just daily functioning, I'm absolutely crap. So,
I mean, I can relate to that sometimes.
Yeah. We're all crap in some way. I won't worry about that.
I know. And it really does depress me, really, because I think people notice that quite often. And if they don't know my specific environment, they usually, where I came from and all this, they usually think I'm not capable of doing things and they overlook me. So, so I do feel a little bit, what shall we say? Like I'm lacking in things. That's what it feels like.
I mean, you come across as a very put together woman to
100%.
us.
Thank you.
That
is a bit of a mask, but thank you.
No.
Hey, listen, we all wear
absolutely.
masks. That is not just you, don't worry.
Yeah, we were talking about kind of this ideology of Jackie and this kind of controlling nature of AB. Could you explain what Jackie was, and could you give us maybe some examples as to how AB kind of controlled members of the cult?
Yeah. Jackie was meant to be an invisible mind control machine who answered only to AB, and he was able to read everybody's mind, and he was also able to create natural disasters such as earthquakes or tornadoes or hurricanes in different parts of the world as revenge for any misdemeanor committed against AB and the cult. So it's absolutely bizarre, the kind of things that I was told growing up, that if the landlord called because the rent was late, then there would be some terrible natural disaster in America, for example, and that was a punishment Jackie was punishing the fascist state for hassling the cult. It was also that if any of us thought things that we were not supposed to think, like if we disagreed with the ideology of the cult, or if we thought AB was wrong in what he did, that we would somehow get punished for that. So one example of that is it was about food, and I was eating food on one occasion, and I said that I didn't want my dad to see me eating food, because he used to comment about my food. Oh, you shouldn't be eating this, or you shouldn't be eating that. And it was very embarrassing. So I didn't want him to see me eating food. And then the cult member who I said that to told him that I had said, I don't want AB to see me eating food because he'll eat all of it. And completely misunderstanding what I was saying. I mean, I was I was 11, I think, and I was quite embarrassed about myself and not really wanting people to know everything that I was doing, because in that place you had no privacy. People were always watching and looking at everything and monitoring every single little thing. And as I was growing up, I was feeling very, very embarrassed, embarrassed about myself. And teenagers, for example, they don't like people making comments about them personally and nosing into every aspect of their life. But I had about 5, 6 people nosing into every aspect of my life. So I just found it too much. And then I said that, and then the next day or so, I got my period, and I was told that I was punished because you're getting your period as a punishment for having said such horrible things about AB, that he would steal your food. And I tried to say, I didn't say he will steal my food, but once it was said, that was the truth. So it went on and on and on, and I had to write down, don't say AB will steal your food. And it just went on and on and on for weeks. He won't hug me, and he won't let me sit next to him or sit at the table with him because I had said he'll steal my food, which I didn't even say.
Yeah, it's unfathomable how, the level of,
Even if you did say that.
because also these are what, women in their 30s. These are grown adults with one child. Like, these aren't like other children tattling or whatever it is.
It's grown adults.
Well, obviously, the thing with Jackie, obviously, this is an ideology that you're being told. So, like any religion or anything, you're being brought up to believe this. You have no reason to think any different. What are your thoughts now, I guess, on the women who were in the group that, I guess, had accepted this ideology that, as you said, sounds so bizarre, I guess, and this idea of Jackie and this idea that AB kind of controls everything. Why do you think they fell into that belief system?
I think they were searching for something more. I think a lot of them came from places where they were not very happy and they felt alienated. So they were looking for a source of comfort and someone to explain everything and make sense of everything. So even though it didn't make any sense, I don't know how they were just so indoctrinated and brainwashed that they don't even ask questions. It was quite simple. To me, it was quite obvious that what was being said it didn't make sense. But these women they were all educated women. They were not, like, my mum was an economics lecturer. She wasn't like somebody who from a village somewhere with no knowledge of anything, who will accept like voodoo ideas or something. But it was like that. I don't know, it was just terrible. These people just wouldn't consider anything else. And you couldn't talk to them. I did try sometimes to sort of hint at things, because obviously you couldn't openly say it was wrong. But I used to sort of say, but yes, but this is said like this, yet it doesn't quite add up. And then that itself will be reported, and I would get into serious trouble for daring to say such a thing and daring to doubt.
Would they try to curry favour with AB by being the snitch?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was, what used to happen was, especially when I was a kid, it used to be like one member would snitch on another, and then everyone would stand around. That person would be forced to kneel on the floor, and all the others would stand around and put that person down, say all the bad things and everything that experiences they've had that they didn't like with that person, and just absolutely annihilate them. And then a few weeks later, that person, the victim, would take revenge, and then the person who had started this hate campaign would now be the one who was being hated on. And it used to go round like this. Every few weeks there was this sort of thing going on, like Cultural Revolution style struggle sessions against people.
And would those lead to be like physical kind of ramifications?
Definitely. And one of the cult members, she used to talk back sometimes, because say someone would say, like what they said to me about me, that I had said AB was stealing my food. If O had been accused of that, she would have challenged it and said, no, I didn't say that. What I was trying to explain, it was like this and all that. And that would make him so angry, and he used to beat her black and blue, and she used to have huge bruises like that here. And she was, and there were people with black eyes, noses bleeding, and there was a lot of physical violence.
What would the other people do in that scenario? Would they just kind of watch? Or
They would, well, on one occasion when I was 5 years old, one of the cult members who left after a while, she was held down by all the other members while my dad punched her black and blue in her face. So he would say, hold her down, and they would just move like robots, like with no mind of their own, no humanity, no empathy. They just do it as if a button was pressed, and they just all sprung into action. He just pulled her, held her down, and he beat her to a pulp.
When people would leave the cult, so you say a few members left throughout your time, how would AB explain that away? What would he say?
He would say they died. That's what he used to say, that they died.
Right.
And then as I got older, it was like, you didn't die. They didn't actually die, but they died to all intents and purposes, because they left the new world, they left the collective, so they are dead, really.
As you're getting older, and becoming like how you snuck a lad and you're getting kind of more rebellious, I guess.
Yeah.
When did you start to think about escaping when seeing the outside world?
I used to think about escaping a lot of the time when I was in my teens, but it was just so impossible, because at that time we lived in the 3-story house. Well, two stories, the ground floor and 2 upper floors, which was from the top where my mum threw herself out. And it was a terraced house, and I wasn't allowed to be on the ground floor on my own. So there was no way I could get out. And I remember one occasion when the neighbours had some scaffolding put up, I remember me thinking, could I sneak out of there and get out? But it was like, I just don't know how to do it. And there's so many don't knows. And what if it went wrong? And my fear was always that if something went wrong, then my life might become even harder than it was. Because sometimes after a while, if there hadn't been any snitching for a while, I managed to sort of slowly push boundaries just a tiny little bit and get a little bit more breathing space. But if there was the snitching and things, everything went back to how it was before. And in a way, I was just so terrified of losing any little freedom that I was too terrified to try to get the full freedom, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the way you say you were scared about maybe the ramifications of a failed escape, was there any percent of your brain at all that maybe thought, what if he's right? Was there any thought where you're like,
Yeah, he could use Jackie to kind of.
yeah, did it ever go, as much as I want to do this, what he's saying might be true? Or was it just a 0%?
I suppose there's always a little bit of fear. I suppose like someone who is, example, a lapsed Catholic, even if they don't believe, if they're in a very dark place, sometimes they do sort of resort to prayer or something to think, oh, maybe God can help me because now I'm in such a bad place. So yes, I mean, there was always that little bit of fear, and there was that, but not really. I mean, I knew it was nonsense, but at the same time, I didn't want to find out if it wasn't, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a time. Am I right in saying that there was a time in your early 20s when you made an escape attempt?
That's right. Yes.
And could you kind of talk us through that?
Yes, I waited for a day when there would be less patrol around, because two of the cult members had gone out shopping and my dad went to have his shower. So at that point, there wasn't that many people around. There were just 2 other people or something, and they were in their rooms. So I took the chance and ran away. I had packed beforehand, but I had packed far too much. I was carrying far too much, and I just couldn't move around with it. And I had absolutely no sense of direction. So I didn't know where to go. It was just so overwhelming. I didn't know where I was supposed to go. So someone said to me, oh, do you need any help carrying that stuff? Because I was like just lugging this enormous amount of stuff. And I said, yes, I've run away from home. What shall I do? And so he suggested go to the police station and let them know. And I couldn't really find the police station, but they said it was beyond the traffic lights or something like that. So I thought, all right, I'll go in there and see what I can do, see if I can get somewhere to live. But unfortunately, it was a bank holiday, so nowhere was open. And essentially the police just said they thought it was like a runaway youngster having a tiff with the family and deciding, all right, I want to go away and set up a new home. Because I didn't want to say about what was actually going on. I just said that they were very repressive and I didn't have freedom to do what I wanted. But I didn't want to ruin their lives, because I knew everybody else in the house liked to live in that way. So I thought they should have the right to live in that way if they wanted, even though I wanted to get out. So I didn't want to say anything which would cause trouble. But unfortunately, that meant the police thought it wasn't that serious, and they didn't want to have to go through all the things which would happen if my family called missing persons and all this. So they said the best thing to do is ring them and tell them where you are, and we'll try to arrange something so that they can give you more freedom and talk about it as if they were reasonable people who you could negotiate with. And I knew this wouldn't work, but I thought, because they were scared of the police, and I kind of thought if the police were involved, they might be a bit more reasonable, because they don't want the police to push and find out more things. So I stupidly agreed to go back with them and talk about things. And, well, that was the end of that. Nothing happened. And I got severely told off as a traitor and somebody who should be executed for treason and all this sort of nonsense.
God. How long was it between that escape attempt and your actual
8 years.
escape? 8 years.
Mm.
How long were you planning, I guess, the escape attempt that was successful and allowed you out into the free world?
Well, for a while I just kind of gave up. I thought I could try to find a way to coexist here, and it didn't work, obviously. So, and then that happened where I had the affair, and then they closed all the doors and windows. So that started making things even worse. Like when I did something which I enjoyed, the punishment was so much, and then I had to roast in that house throughout the summer, and it was very hot summers, and we had like solar panels on the roof, so the house was made with double glazing and like a sun trap. So it was like 50 degrees, as I mentioned earlier. And having to endure that every summer, 50 degrees, it was just horrendous. And being told I can't go out, and I was in my 20s, it just felt beyond anything I could endure, really. And I was so angry at this point that I had been caged up like this and not allowed to. All I wanted to do was find a bit of companionship and love, and I had been punished so severely for it, as if I had committed a murder or something. And it was like, I'm not willing to put up with this any longer. It was kind of what I was thinking, but how do I make something happen? And then what happened was my aunt, my stepmother's sister, got poorly, and that meant that there were a lot more things. She was a disabled woman, and everybody used to look after her, so things got a lot harder. And my stepmother started bullying Josie, one of the other cult members, really badly. And Josie was crying and trying her very best, but was always being told that she wasn't doing enough. So I kind of reached out to Josie at that point and said, I'm sorry you're being treated like this. And Josie kind of welcomed that comfort that I was giving her. So this was going on for a few months. And then I said to Josie that you don't like it when Chanda lies about you and snitches on you, but that's what you used to do to me when I grew up. And Josie said, oh yes, that's terrible. And now I see what it's like. Now that it's happening to me, I can see how bad it was, and I'm sorry about it. So also at that point, I started becoming quite poorly and I was losing weight. So I said to Josie that well, let's go back a bit further. She said maybe what we could do is sneak you out so that you can go to a hospital. And I said that if I'm going to go, I'm not coming back. So this was in 2013. And I said that by the end of 2014, I'm going to leave this place either alive or dead. So I think Josie took this seriously. And also, because she hated my stepmother so much, I kind of said to her that it was my stepmother who was making all this happen the way things are. All this bad, toxic atmosphere was due to my stepmother, and that my father was like the dad in Snow White who was completely like under a spell and not able to think for himself. And for Josie, that made a perfect explanation, but he didn't criticize my dad, and it criticized the woman she hated and was jealous of. So it kind of worked out perfectly. So she agreed to help me to escape.
What happened when you left the house? What was your first kind of interaction in terms of being able to get help?
Well, we found we used to have to watch the BBC News every day, and on one day there was an item and about forced marriages in Asian communities, and a helpline was given after that. So Josie and I both memorized that helpline. And then the next day, when my dad and stepmother went out shopping, I mean, they used to do everything by rote. So we kind of knew when they would go from 11 to 2, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., like every time, every Thursday or every Friday or whatever. So we knew that we had that slot to get some help. And we had previously sneaked in a mobile phone so as to try to get contact with people who may be able to help. So we called this number and we arranged for people to pick us up on the 25th of October, which is tomorrow actually. It's the 12th anniversary of this.
Wow.
Wow.
So yeah, and they came and picked us up and took us to Leeds.
Was that like to a refuge in Leeds?
To a
wasn't it?
refuge, yes, that's right.
And then how long was it before the police intervened with AB?
I mean, the police came the same day,
Mm-hmm.
but they arrested AB and Chanda on the 21st of November, 2013.
Yeah, so a month later. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was ongoing for quite a while. And then the court case took place in 2015, November 2015. And my dad was sentenced in January 2016.
How do you feel about, obviously AB's passed now? How did it feel that he went to prison for his crimes? How do you feel personally?
That is a hard one, really, because I'm not really a believer in punishment. I just wanted to be free. I didn't want him to go into the cage instead of me. And I kind of felt that it was like that. And I wasn't quite happy about it. But I mean, I know that I suppose there has to be, that's how our society works. And I'm not sure I quite agree with it, but that is how it is. So it was good to get the conviction and a proof that what had happened was wrong, but I didn't wish any harm on my dad, because I think he had a lot of mental health issues as well, and I kind of felt sorry for him, really, because it wasn't. And also, I also thought it wasn't just him; it was very much a collective endeavor. What was going on? He on his own was all right sometimes, but together, the toxic combination of this group mentality, this horrible ideology, is what created that monster. It wasn't just my father on his own, or my mother, or any individual in that place. So I think it's very important to challenge cultist ideology and that kind. And I see, since coming out, I've seen a lot of things which I consider to be similar to that. And I think it's very toxic. And I think we need to challenge, this way of just believing things without asking questions and just throwing yourself into something and not considering any other perspective and putting it. I think the worst thing is that when we put ideology above humanity, so we harm or we hurt others just because they don't share our ideology. And instead of coexisting. And, you know, people don't have to agree. We can agree to disagree, but we can still get along. But we don't see a lot of that going on nowadays. We see people trying to destroy others' lives if they disagree about things.
I'm interested to how your life was post cult. So, how old were you when you finally escaped
I was
the
30.
cult? You were 30. So, how did life look in the first few years as a, in the outside world? How did you integrate into normal life? What were the challenges?
The challenges are a lot. I just felt like an alien, really. And things that people take for granted, I just found so difficult, like trying to get around. And to this day, I still struggle with it. You know, getting from A to B is not as easy as it may be if you've got a good sense of direction. And I felt I should have felt happy, but all I did was feel very disappointed at how disabled I was and how I was stupid. When I was in the cult, I kind of thought once these cage doors are open, I would just be able to be like anyone else of my age and just walk about and have not a care in the world, like it seemed that a lot of people do. And then to realize that everything was a challenge, health-wise, as well as interacting with people and being weird and being awkward and being quirky. It's really hard sometimes.
You don't come across as awkward to us.
Also, quirky isn't a negative. I think quirky is good.
all.
Who wants to be like everybody else?
Yeah, yes, I think some people accept it, but people who are very neurotypical and very, what shall we say, very efficient and things, they don't like me because got my head in the clouds and I don't get anything done. So I just end up being a disappointment to people, and I get called lazy
sound like
and
boring
stupid.
people.
Yeah, they sound
Yes.
boring. Yeah, we don't need them people.
No, we don't.
How do you
no.
how do you like what makes you happy then? How do you like how do you entertain yourself now? Are you like what makes you happy on a day-to-day basis? How do you smile now?
How do I smile? Pets. I love
Pets?
floofs.
Okay.
Yeah, I love floofs especially, which is like, big like huskies and things, and like Maine Coon cats. Oh,
I love a Maine Coon
adore
cat.
that. Yeah, and ragdoll. Oh, I look
Yeah.
after 2 ragdolls sometimes. They're just so cute. I love fluffy dogs.
It's a good way to spend your day.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you've gone back and kind of regained your childhood in some ways?
Good question.
I mean, I remember last time that I spoke to you when I was in uni.
Yeah.
And we spoke briefly. I think you had just been to Build-A-Bear, and you'd or something, or
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
you
that's
just
right.
had,
I
yeah.
got a bear. Yes, I've still got that. It's really nice. And
which is fantastic that you get to try and regain, I guess, the childhood that was robbed from you.
Yeah, but I don't. I don't know whether it's my ADHD or what, but I do struggle with this dopamine. Always wanting new, always get bored very easily, and I don't find a lot of things very exciting. I was always like that in the cult, and I'm still like that. I just always I always want to run about and travel and be in different places. I don't like really staying in the same place 2 nights. I want to be in a different place every night and doing something different, going on a train or getting on a plane, which is not always easy when I've got some mobility issues. But my mind just wants to go all the time.
But you can.
Yes.
You're making up for lost kind of travel.
Go more than anybody.
I did a lot of going, and then I sort of slowed down recently because I'm having some funny issues. So, but my brain is still going, never switches off, and it's
good. Don't switch it off.
No, but it's very tiring. So I end up sleeping all the time. That's a lot of sleep.
It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you, Katie.
Absolutely.
And thank you.
One last question
Likewise.
that we'd like to ask. Obviously, that we talked about that girl who couldn't kind of stay still in a house in an upbringing that was really kind of tragic and constrictive.
Yeah.
And then seeing you now as an unbelievably kind of affable, well-spoken person in the outside
Thank you.
world.
Mhm.
If you could speak to like 10-year-old Katie, what would you say?
Don't give up.
That's perfect.
It's perfect.
You couldn't have said it better.
Thank you.
Honestly, Katie, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and I think you're such a beautiful soul, considering the amount of darkness you've had to put up with.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's quite. I say it's quite infectious to speak to you. So, thank you for making my day a bit brighter.
Oh, thank you. That's nice.
Yeah, thank you so much, Katie, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you
Take care.
too.
What a woman.
Do you know what? There were points in there where, yeah, I felt really overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Really and it seems almost kind of.
Yeah, you feel a bit silly, don't you? Like, we shouldn't get upset.
Yeah, like I feel emotionally tired, and it feels in a way that I'm not allowed to be because I didn't experience that. But it's the way that she can talk about people that treat her so awfully.
The strength she's got just to not have just given up.
Yeah.
To not just go, my life has been, 30 years of my life has been taken away from me, which has meant the rest of my life is now lesser because of the ailments it's caused. For her to have just fucking gone, fuck everyone, give up. And she's still got a smile on her, constantly got a smile on her face, constantly wants to give love to others. It makes you feel a bit silly.
It's properly overwhelming.
As in, it makes you feel like, fuck me, my issues are nothing.
Yeah, and even the fact that so obviously in the run up to this, we both read about the kind of Lambeth slavery case, which is what it's kind of known on Wikipedia and stuff like that. And I knew the case beforehand, and when you read about it and you see the kind of thing of to kind of round it up, AB got 23 years in prison, served about 6 before he died. And when you see he got that many years, you go, good, hope the bastard rots for what he kind of put Katie through. And then he dies, and it's like,
he's got away with it.
Yeah, a little bit. And then you look at this woman's response, who is the victim in all of this.
Don't
and
put him in the cage I was in. I was like, you do not need to say that. You do not need to say that. But the fact that you've got the peace of mind to even think in that way.
Yeah, such an emotionally mature. We said it was such an emotionally mature person.
Constantly got a smile on her face. You called her affable multiple times. I was like, what a lovely, warm woman.
Yeah.
Where she got that from? She grew up in tragedy when it's just horrendous, and she's managed to create this warm. It's absolutely mind blown.
And I enjoyed how that was a kind of different episode of all the interviews that we've done. I don't think there's been one where it's breathed that much. Do you get what I mean? We just kind of sat and listened.
I was in awe. I was just like, wow. I knew what she was going to say was going to be real and interesting and from the heart. And
yeah, it was an honor to kind of sit there and listen to someone who's come out the other end of that. Yeah. And that was Katy Morgan-Davies.
Hope you enjoyed it. That was, as I say, it was more of none of them are happy, I suppose, but it was more of a somber one. But I think there was a positive message that can come out of that.
Even to the point where, when we've high-fived at the end of, which we high-five at the end of all the episodes, there was a point leading up to that where I was like, not felt wrong, but I was like, I need to tone down this high-five because it feels like we kind of did that out of tradition rather than
continuity.
I don't feel like we can.
But there is of an awful story. There's a nice message that through all that, this woman still exists. So
if Katy Morgan-Davies can find light at the end of the tunnel,
you can go to bed and go and fucking go to the gym.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if there's Katy's got a book out as well for
Yeah,
this.
go and give this woman all
we'll
the
stick the
support and
links,
the love.
yeah,
Like she deserves it.
At 100%. And this has been Mad That.
Yeah.
Little somber high five.